let me first of all take you through what are we actually planning to do in these 4 sessions. All right. In session 1, we're going to touch base on the basics, fundamentals in terms of what are those factors which really impact compensation, why compensation is so critical. Then we look at the elements of compensation, session 1. So we look at the elements of compensation, both in the Indian environment and also from the global perspective. The Mount Everest, okay? We would be doing a very, very critical, most important aspect of compensation, which is called a job evaluation. Because what happens if you want to really establish as a compensation manager, as a compensation expert, how do you establish equity, fairness? So, job evaluation is the process or the technology through which we establish internal equity. So, how do we establish the job worth? Thereafter, then, how do you design salary structures? Okay. So, then we go to what? Then we go to market. How do you do market pricing? How do you actually do salary surveys? How do you do data analysis of that? Then alongside with the market data, then how do you do designing of salary structures, okay, for different organizations, for startups, for maybe matured organizations, etc., and for different industries as well. Then uh, in the 4th session, what we do is we are talking about how do we build individual equity, what we call it as the entire gamut of variable pay programs, that is long term, short term, stock options. Uh, what is the design process? How do you go about doing that? Then even we talk about this um, strategies like high performance strategies, retention strategies, etc. So in nutshell, then after talking about the entire technicalities, processes, etc., then how do you actually communicate the entire thing? Because ultimately you are successful only when you communicate it very well. So how do you communicate a reward program? How do you do all this communication, okay, from top down? And how do you receive the feedback from bottom up? Okay, so this, in addition to that, definitely, whatever, during the sessions, you can always ask me for extra inputs on whatever areas you in particular want to cover. Okay, is that fine with you all? Yeah, just give me a thumbs up so that, yes, I would like you all to participate. I would like you all to at least show me a thumbs up when you have understood a concept, or a thumbs down when you have not understood. That's the only way. Feedback is very, very important. You agree? Okay. I can see Haider giving a thumbs up. All right. I can see now Niti. It always needs one person to start off. Then there are plenty of thumbs ups. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So let us start this question with a very key question. Uh, I'm addressing it to all of you. So, think of your first job. First job, because all of you are experienced people. When you got your first job, what is that? What motivated you most? Was it the salary part? Was it, the growth part? Was it the learning part? What motivated you the most? Anybody? Niti, yes, Niti.
Ma'am, initially when I passed out from my college and I got a first job, I was actually looking at the office building. Of course,
Mm.
the kind of um, the people around, and that was my first experience. How the
So
corporate
the
people work
salary,
was
I mean,
basically salary
you
was
did
not
not,
a
not
yeah
a
salary
criteria. So you just
was
looked at a
not a
salary and said,
criteria,
okay, it's
but
okay. Hmm.
yes, but getting into a corporate life was the major motivation for me. And then slowly and steadily, adapting to that culture, getting more and more perquisites from the companies, short term and spot awards. particularly. So
Okay.
that
So that
was,
motivated you the most. Yeah.
yeah.
Couple of more. Let me understand. Yeah. I think Haider wanted to say something. Haider? Yeah. You are muted. Huh.
Yeah, basically for me, it's just both financial and career progression. Like I just want to reach into next level, like a managerial level, and both
Okay.
financial as well.
Okay. So
So
salary
both that,
makes, it's important for you.
that's very
Okay.
important. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Smaran?
So mine is a pretty interesting one. So obviously, I didn't look at neither the salary nor. So mine was majorly a role because as a part of my MBA curriculum, the master's curriculum, I had to do a 6 months internship as a part of my last semester in Europe. But then the rule of that semester, the rule of that internship was that it cannot be a free internship. You had to do a paid internship, and it had to be an internship that was connected to the thesis that I was writing. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was more about getting an internship which was connected to the thesis that I was writing. I think that was, I mean, that was my technically my first job because I was paid for it, and then I did 6 months there, and then I think continued in that job only for a year or so. So mine was a very different. So neither I looked at the compensation side, neither I looked at the role. It was more to do whether I'm able to submit the thesis that I was writing, whether it is something similar to what I can get. So I think that was where for me it was.
Okay. Okay. But tell me, yeah, to all of you, but in today's times, organizations in particular, like in fact, the very thought and the intent of all of you wanting to learn compensation, etc., because definitely it has a, I mean, that's a niche competency today, and to rise career-wise in an organization, you definitely need to have a comp and ben kind of a expertise. Okay, so, but why has it become suddenly, from the employer's perspective, very, very critical? No, compensation is something. It is the very word. When I say, okay, let me put it, the very word compensation. What kind of things come to your mind?
Ma'am, frankly, I'll tell you, am I audible properly?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Ah,
So, since I am been working in Comp and Ben, I'll tell you the true story of the organ industry nowadays. It's what happening is compensation is not very critical, I would say. Being a Comp
mm-hmm,
and Ben person, the
mm-hmm,
major and the important part is the rewards.
mm-hmm,
The
mm-hmm,
people who are currently working in an organization, they are more and more focusing on the rewards rather than, you know, having a guarantee cash on their side. Of course, that is there, that is a company policy, and every year you get an increment, though it is 2%, 3%, 5%, or 9%. But
mm-hmm,
the majorly right now people are focusing on what kind of a culture they are actually working on,
mm-hmm,
where the people are getting more stability. Uh, yeah, if I talk about Pune city, people are more stable. We, last year, if I talk about, our last year retention was 87%. So
mm-hmm,
that was a huge, um, that was a huge efforts which all the HRs has been appreciated for. So what
yeah,
I'm trying to say is, ma'am, it was initially critical, but nowadays, since all Gen Zs have come in, and there are a lot of uh, the people who are already working, they are looking for a proper culture, job satisfaction, and importantly, people are looking about from the stability point of view. Rest all
excellent,
is,
excellent.
of course, rest all is there, but these are all things which, as a complement, people are right now mostly working on in the industry.
Excellent, excellent. So, given the fact that yes, you have to give guaranteed salary, current trend in terms of, because of the kind of, market environment we have, and the what youngsters are looking, at, in terms of culture, in terms of work life balance, in terms of career growth, etc. So, two jobs may have the same salary, but the kind of pay mixes, the kind of rewards, the kind of recognition, etc., the career growth. So you are able to, because the very fact that organizations are here in a what kind of a talent situation, there is a talent war for good talent. So you really need to create that kind of a pay mix where you can actually pull the good talent. So therefore, compensation becomes really, I mean, the total reward approach becomes very, very critical, which we will talk about, and just not a paycheck or a salary. Because today, the current trend is the employee is not just looking at one paycheck, he is looking at much more, much more. Okay. Having said that, yes, now looks like, yes, people, I can see that, everybody has a feel and also understands the compensation. Okay. Take a minute to think, what are some of the key external factors which impact compensation? Key external factors which impact compensation. Simple. Say, for example, you have a very critical position, huh? Like in today's, in fact, the kind of market dynamics we have, procurement, supply chain, very key critical positions where the demand is high and the supply is low. What will be the external factor which will impact the compensation? Obviously, one of the, yeah, Smaran wants to say something, right? The supply demand factor. So one of the external factors which impacts compensation is also what?
It's
Demand for talent. What is the supply demand in the market, right? Yeah, Smaran, you want to say something? Yeah. What else? What are the other factors? What are the other factors?
Ma'am, I would say globalization, the competitiveness is
Okay.
something.
So Niti says one of the factors is globalization, right? Huh? So in what way does it impact compensation, globalization?
Ma'am, I would say, the increasing in the, competition of the talent potentially to standardize the pay across
Okay. So
different
the way we
countries. So,
understand when you say globalization is we get a cost arbitrage on the labor,
yeah.
because we are able to then what outsource to low cost geographies where the wage cost is low, because then we are looking at talent globally and you are pushing those jobs where you can actually pay much lesser. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
come to that.
particularly
And
for the companies, ma'am, which are particularly who are working with different countries. Like for example, our company is basically we are working with Brazil, Germany, Netherlands. So for us, globalization is the major factor which impacted the compensation.
yeah, I'll touch upon it. But with the present geopolitics which is going on, but yes, people are also in the current situation, people are also going for near shore, you know. So therefore the wage cost could be slightly higher. Okay. Since Now let us look at what are the key external and internal factors which impact the compensation. Economic conditions. Do they impact? Inflation, recession, definitely they will have a budget constraints on the budgets, right? As I talked about labor market, the demand and supply of the labor market, external markets, cost of living, will it have an impact on compensation? Obviously, you'll have to give some kind of a percentage or COLA, inflation. Then what about global supply chains? Obviously, they will have a huge impact. Labor unions. The first and the foremost external factor which impacts as a competent person when you have to design a salary structure, what is that you need to look at? Government regulations, or what we call it as statutory compliances. Will you agree? Yeah. What is the first thing you need to look at? The regulatory. Okay. Now, since we have participants from US and from Dubai and also from India, let us look at. So, typically, when we talk about the government regulations or the statutory compliances, we can put them into three buckets. One is, what are those government regulations we need to comply for wages? That means for paying wages. Quickly take a minute, think about it, and let me know. I will also, First, we'll talk about what are some of those government regulations. Okay, we'll talk about even US and in India, what kind of statutory compliances we have with regard to wages. I'm sure all
We
of you know
have PF,
Minimum
we
Wages
have,
Act,
yeah, we have
Minimum Wages
minimum
Act.
wages, gratuity,
You
provident
have
funds.
no. I'm talking about gratuity will come protection under the Social Security. So we have Payment of Wages Act. We have Equal Remuneration Act. Okay. So, what do you mean by Minimum of Wages Act? That is, you have to pay a particular minimum wages as per the what? There are three criteria. What are those three criteria? Is there anybody who is doing, huh? What are the three criteria in India? Huh? Industry, then categorization, skilled, unskilled, huh? And every state has a different minimum wages to pay. Okay. Now, when we talk about Payment of Wages Act, you need to pay a salary not by saying, okay, I can pay some a basket. What is it? A sack of rice. No, you have to pay them by the currency on a certain date. So there is a statutory compliance. Likewise, in Dubai also you have, but in Dubai, yes, Haider, can you tell me in Dubai, there is no income tax, of course. There is not, they are trying to have a minimum wages act, but not really. It is not still in place, right? Huh?
Yeah, in Qatar we have minimum wage in place, and other
Huh.
than that, we don't have much statutory requirements. And the social
Absolutely.
security is for only the nationals, and expats doesn't have a social security. Then,
Yes.
apart from that, end of service gratuity,
Okay.
that is also statutory requirement.
And in USD, you have this FLSA. Maybe Chanel can talk about it. What are those acts you have for wages, Chanel?
Sure. So you're right. We have the
You
FLSA,
have
and that
FLSA, which helps you to fix minimum overtime. It takes care of all that. Then you also have this Davis-Bacon Act, right? You also have the Equal Pay Act. You have the equity. In today's times, I think equity becomes very, very critical. So Pay Equity Act, right? So these
yes.
are all the acts which are, you have to comply with. You have a statutory requirement. Then comes the protection. There are certain acts as per the government which helps you to protect. For example, in India, you have what? For medical insurance, you have a workers' compensation, you have a pension. What are those acts? Gratuity, PF, ESI, etc. Likewise, even in US, you have something called, in US, what do you have for protection as per the Social Security channel? You have something called the SSA Act or something, for retirement, disability, medical, compensation, unemployment assistance, etc. And of course, most of them are from non-exempt, right? For the
Yes.
non-exempt. Yeah. In protection programs,
Mhm.
you also have something called what? Paid leave. I don't know in Dubai, but in India, we have paid leave. Huh? Then we have maternity, as per the Maternity Benefit Act, 6 months. In US, you have something like 45 days, I think. How many days do you have, Channel, under the Maternity Benefit Act?
We
Is
have
it 3
6
months?
weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks, yeah. But in India, we have 6 months now. In Dubai,
In Dubai, we have 45 days.
45 days. Right, right. Okay. All right. So then you have what? Tax. Of course, there's no personal tax in Dubai, UAE, but then you have definitely in US and also in India. Okay. Now, the art, where does the mastery of a compensation guy come? Say, for example, if I have to pay $10,000 or 10,000 rupees as a salary to Smaran. If I pay that entire amount, what happens
You
as a
get
lump
taxed.
sum amount? Huh?
You get taxed at 30%.
It gets taxed, right? And you only get 7,000. But the so where does the effectiveness and efficiency of a compensation man come? How the structure? So therefore, he has to have a good understanding of the tax act, tax rules, right? What are those components or elements which are fully tax exempted? Like, for example, in India, Smaran, which are some of the components which are tax exempted? Like, for example, HRA,
HRA is tax exempted.
40,
Then you have
30% or 40% you get, right? Your Then you have something combined conveyance, what is it, medical, etc. It's I think 40,000 per month. Okay.
but
Uh,
now it is all gone, right? It is a standard deduction that has come in, so technically everything is
exactly.
gone. So it is
Exactly. So there
75,000
is
if you're on the old tax. On the new tax and the old tax, I think it's 60,000 something or 50,000. I'm not
absolutely.
aware of the budget, but then
Yeah,
there's a standard
absolutely.
deduction.
Absolutely. So you have a standard deduction. Likewise, even in US, you have some components which can give you that tax exemption. So, like for example, if you want to gift, there's only 5,000 which can be tax exempted as gift tax. Over and above, if you're gifting anything as an employer, it's all taxed. Like for example, on your variable pay, it's taxed. Okay. So when you know what are those components which are tax exempt, you are able to structure the compensation well. But in Dubai, Hyder doesn't have to bother because there is no personal tax. Okay. You get the entire amount. All right. Okay. Then, if your organization, the other factor, external factor is, you know, the labor unions, they actually come collectively, they form collective bargaining. So, what happens there in manufacturing organizations, especially non exempt people, then when they form unions, then it is not individualized. So, all of them come together, they bargain, and that holds good for 2 years, 3 years, whatever is the wage settlement. And that's a good win win for both the employer and the employee. So, in some of the organizations, especially for the unionized people, collective bargaining becomes a very important factor which impacts compensation. Okay. Like in the public sectors, even US, I don't know, in Dubai, I don't think they can still form unions. Can they? Nitin, can they?
No,
I don't
no, they
think they
can't.
have. Yeah, they can't. But yes, you have in US, unions, you have in India and also in some other countries. Now, another factor which is actually impacting the compensation is this demographic changes. Okay. Now, a lot of younger generations are actually coming into workforce. So, therefore, and then there is gender diversity, etc. Because of this, it's impacting compensation. We will actually see how they impact compensation. Like, for example, in the ITES organizations, what do? They are actually taking people as young as maybe 10th or 12th pass. So they actually then leave the organization in a matter of 1 or 2 years to go for higher studies. So organizations are actually designing their entire reward benefit mechanism, giving them career opportunities, growth opportunities, so that they can reduce the attrition. Okay, that also impacts hugely the compensation. Of course, economic factors also impact compensation, like the recession, the inflation, etc., which which has constraints on the budget. Today we are talking a lot in terms of diversity, inclusion, etc., which again has an impact on compensation. I'm actually running through this because you can actually read it. It's more of a theory because there's a lot more to do. In the demographics, I would also talk about how this entire, work life, how it's evolving. In fact, if you actually noticed 20 or 30 years ago, people would actually work for one organization. If you talk to your parents, they would only work for one organization all their life, 20 years, 30 years. There was so much of loyalty. But today, what would be the tenure best? How long would be employees stay in organization on an average? On an average,
6
typically.
months.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is absolute. Some people want to better their opportunities. Some people want to study better, study for higher education. So some people want to. So organizations, what are they trying to do? They are actually then designing their reward programs. Like, say, for example, you can also study and still work. Do you know certain organization like Genpact and most of the ITES? In fact, when I was the head of Tata's, we've also started that. We had started taking students who are doing their graduation, and we would say, okay, you can work for 4 to 5 hours and you can also study. Or we had actually taken people who had retired and were in good health, and we would take them on a short tenure of 3 years or 4 years. So you, as a compensation person, what is very, very critical for you? Your budget, your percentage of employee to revenue cost, which we call it as ECR, employee to revenue cost. So if your wage cost is higher, then the profits will be much lesser. So you need to look at, hey, what kind of a talent and at what cost should I be taking? So in order to do that, what kind of how do I design my compensation structure? Okay. Yeah. Somebody, this is a very interesting, we call it as career deceleration. Has anybody come across this word, career deceleration? Yes or no?
No.
No. No. Okay. So what is this? As you know, compensation, you want good people. They come at a higher wage cost. Okay. So what can you do? You can actually look at, for example, people who have retired. I will share my example. We needed people to do our what? Statutory work. Now, statutory work is really very, very critical because you need people who have deep pockets of knowledge and experience. Now, if I take a person who is, who does not have a good understanding of this, he can come at a lesser cost. Okay. But then there'll be so many gaps. So therefore, what did we do? We actually hired retired PF commissioners who could just come once in a week or twice in a week and then do much better work as in compared to the youngsters who had no idea of what all the statutory regulations are. So what I'm trying to drive at, look at what kind of a positions are there and critical positions. Do you really need people from the mainstream, or can you take people who are retired and who have deep pockets of experience and still can work for few hours, because they will come definitely at half the cost. And let me also tell you that we have done a very interesting project, that is called the HMRI public partnership with the IT company, the erstwhile Satyam Computers, which is also called now Mahindra Tech. So there They wanted to do this. They wanted to build a call center, um, a health call center where you can do telemedicine. Now you needed to hire doctors, MBB, doctors. Now we had hired a lot of young doctors, and there was huge attrition. Almost every 2 months we would have attrition because for a doctor working in a call center, he would feel, hey, what is this? I'm a doctor and I'm actually working in a call center. And his work was what? Taking up calls and understanding the problem, medical problem, and giving some kind of a diagnosis and also a prescription. Now, what did we do? We took retired doctors who were specialized in certain kind of areas. Now, we got them at half the cost. We gave them a pick and drop, okay, and their productivity was much more. While the young doctors took 15 minutes per patient, these doctors took only 6 minutes. The point I'm trying to make is, as a competent person, look at what kind of a jobs at what cost are they coming. Can I look at alternative ways of getting the talent? Okay, that is called career deceleration, in the sense that people who are retired and still who can actually spare 4 to 5 hours and who have deep pockets of experience. You can look at oil and those industries which need a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and who come at a very high wage cost. You can always look at people who have retired. This is called career deceleration. Okay. Yes, Niti was talking about what? Globalization. Well, globalization is not a new thing. Well, we were always, people were always, you know, uh, going to different places to work. But with the help of technology, I think now globalization has really come into full fold. So, how do you think globalization is impacting compensation? Yeah,
Inflation.
Niti or anybody, how do you think
In-
globalization is actually impacting compensation?
inflation. Cost of living is going up.
Yeah. So in today's times, how does it impact compensation? It reduces your wage cost. How using technology you can actually what eliminate lower end jobs so that you can pay higher amount for the remaining jobs. Two, cost arbitrage. Well, right in the beginning, Niti was talking about we can actually what outsource jobs to geographies which have lower wage cost. Any examples from your organization? Anybody? Smaran, you want to share? Because you in fact are doing globally a lot of work.
So basically, so to reduce the cost. So basically, what we have done is we have hired contractors to take care of take care of certain jobs which is only required for 6 or 8 months, and then we know it is all done, right? So we
Mm.
actually have hired third-party consultants who basically take care of those system requirements for us. So in that sense, it has obviously reduced the statutory compliances for us because obviously it's third party, so we become the principal employer, so we don't have to keep anything, right? And in that case, it also gets my costs down because we sign up with a fixed sum contract with the contractors, and then they have to allocate the resources to us. So in that sense, it
Right.
helps us to I won't say it eliminates, but at least in that sense, it on the balance sheet it shows a lower cost of employer salary, so my operating cost is down, and then obviously my attrition rate also comes down because they technically are not shown as attritions.
Yeah. So you are only concerned about the productivity part and also the SLAs as per the
Yeah,
SLAs.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So,
that is
uh,
what, and since it's a monotonous and a thankless job, so technically it's no point in having someone either on payroll, so hence we just decided to outsource that.
right. Like you are outsourcing it so that, this is like whatever is not core, huh? And whatever is
Yeah.
routine, you can actually get better efficiency by outsourcing it. Yeah, absolutely. Huh? But so essentially, when we talk about the globalization, how does it work? What is the, you know, uh, what is the main theory behind it? Because what happens is it works on actually a arbitrage of cost arbitrage, cost and labor arbitrage. Say for example, a simple example, software engineer. Okay. So Chanel, can you tell me what is the salary paid for a entry level software engineer in US?
Mm, I would say
60 to
between like,
$70,000? Huh?
yes. Yep.
60 to 70,000. And let me tell you, if I convert it into Indian rupees, how much is it, Smaran?
I think between 60,000 would be approximately, if you take it at 80,
Yeah,
around
a
four,
rough
yeah,
figure,
around 6
around
lakhs.
60,000. Now you tell me the Indian counterparts. If you want to get an engineer, a software engineer in India for the same job, huh, what would be the minimum, or what would be the average salary? A good software engineer you can get.
So I would not like to participate in this because to me it is a very open-ended question. I think you need to put
Mhm.
in a little more factors then to answer it, right? For
Yeah,
me, when it
in general, if you say in general, typically,
see
just to
what
understand how globalization works. Yeah,
so typically I think it's around three, and I mean at least what I've read in or what I've been a part of groups is like 3.6 to 4.8. I'm presuming that is the range in
yeah.
India currently.
On an average, even if you want to get the best, it can also go up to 5, 6, 7, 8, right? You can get a good. So you can now see the difference. If I want to outsource that job to low cost geographies, I can get at a I have to pay a much lesser wage cost. Therefore, what happens? You actually start looking at those jobs which are not very, very core and critical, and you can outsource them, to a third country, to a place. Like, for example, this entire ITS industry, even some of the IT jobs, they've been actually playing the same thing, outsourcing and getting, playing on the cost arbitrage of labor. But probably not much now because of geopolitics. But so far, we've been doing that. Okay. So when do
Ma'am,
you actually,
I have a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Globalization, ma'am, also pushing the organization to offer more comprehensive benefits. That is also a major concern nowadays. Like for example, flexible work arrangements or maybe wellness programs, professional development opportunities. So these all things are also there when we talk about globalization. So
So when
apart
we
from
come,
the
yeah. When
uh,
we come to
apart,
rewards and benefit,
yeah,
we're definitely going to talk about that. How are we going to design our benefits, right? Hmm? So here we are just talking about the wage cost. So what happens when do you stop actually outsourcing? When you reach this something called a economic tripwire. Anybody who understands what is this economic tripwire? This word economic tripwire. Okay. Say for example, I said $70,000, it is about 60,000 rupees. So if I get for 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs, I still make some margins. But then there's a point where if I pay more than that, then the margins get really reduced. It's pointless outsourcing that job. So that that point where I cannot actually increase the salaries, it's no point outsourcing it. So that's called the economic wire, in the sense that it does not make business sense for me to outsource that job. Is that clear? I just want uh just give me a thumbs up. Guys, is that clear? Okay, Smaran says clear. Nathan, Channel, anybody? See, economic tripwire is that where it does not make business sense to outsource that job anymore to lower geographies. Okay? Yes,
ma'am,
Niti?
can you
Yeah.
give me some examples on this because I am not clear with this concept.
You're not very clear. Okay. Say,
Yeah.
for example, I gave you that if I'm actually looking at a simple, very example, because everybody understands a software engineer who is paid about 60 to $70,000 Indian rupees will be translating into, say, 40 to 50,000, 40 to 50 lakhs, right? Then if I were to outsource and I can get somebody in India or any other geography where at a much lesser cost, even for 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs, I keep increasing, okay, because more and more jobs and more people. So I may have to pay 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs. But if I were to pay 20, 25 lakhs, it doesn't make business sense because there are other things which also have to be taken care of. So at economic tripwire is that point where it does not make for me a business sense to shift that job from a higher geography where the wage cost is higher to a lower geography. So if you know that in organizations, the HR head and the business head, whenever they are actually getting such opportunities for outsourcing, they actually calculate the talent cost and also see, is there a profit margin? Is it viable for us to do this? Okay. It's only then they start working on it. All right. Yeah.
Understood.
Okay. So, well, the first, this module covered the external factors, and the key factors we need to look at is government regulations. As a compensation person, when you have to design, you definitely, any country globally, first and the foremost is you need to really look at, hey, what are the government regulations in terms of wage, in terms of protection, in terms of tax, which I need to comply before you start actually designing a salary structure. Then you also need to look at the talent supply, the supply and demand of labor. Okay. Then you also need to look at the other factors like, is it unionized? Is there a collective bargaining there? And also, is there a scope for globalization? Is there a scope for career deceleration, etc.? Okay, that's how you can actually reduce your wage cost, because every organization, there's a very key metric called what? ECR, employee cost to revenue. ECR, employee cost to revenue. That means what is the percentage of wage cost to the revenue? So if there's a very higher percentage of wage cost, what happens then? Obviously, it impacts the profit. So I also need to look at benchmarks in terms of what are my peer organizations' ECR costs. So when I actually start hiring people, especially in startups, if I'm in an IT industry, I also look at, hey, what is the ECR for other IT companies? So maybe I'll take a range, say, for example, an IT company, Infosys, Wipro, etc. I'm actually starting a startup of an IT company, and the ranges of ECR is between say 12% to say 20%. So depending on my own budget, availability, I meant, and also depending on what kind of a percentile I want to keep the compensation with. So I might say, okay, I want to go at a 12% or 13% or 14%. So depending on the compensation committee's decision. Okay. So that is very, very important. ECR. Having said that, let us understand, before we actually get into job evaluation part, some of the components of a compensation system. So when we talk about compensation, what word comes to your mind? What comes to your mind?
Bonuses.
Pardon?
Bonuses.
Yeah, yeah. So typically when we talk about compensation, is typically what? It is what we get, value. It could be monetary, it could be non-monetary, in the form of monetary and non-monetary, for the effort we have put in. It is a return from the employer for the effort we have put in. Now, so a compensation, I'm sure most of you know about it. So when we talk about the components, there are two: direct and indirect. Now, let us first look at only direct compensation. What is direct compensation? It's all about money. Okay? Money, whether you're getting it now or whether you're getting it in 1-2 years. What is indirect compensation? It's all about what? Non-monetary. You don't give cash directly. Okay? But It is in the form of certain benefits, certain perks, etc. It is non-monetary. So when we talk about direct compensation, typically there are only three elements to it. One is very, very key, base pay. What do you understand by base pay? Base is very, very important. Base pay. Anybody? It could be paid in the form of salary or wages. What is base pay? It is your guaranteed salary. That means when you get an appointment offer letter, you get certain amount, okay, which whether you perform or underperform, it is guaranteed. It does not come with any kind of what condition. It is guaranteed
Basically,
cash.
gross pay.
When you talk about gross, there are certain other things added. So base pay is something which in your salary statement, they will be there, base. Because all the other perks, like in India, you also calculate your house rent, other components on the base of the base pay. Okay. So base is something which is guaranteed. Now, how do you calculate base pay? Anybody? Say, for example, manager HR. How do you fix that salary? That he has to get this much of base pay.
Budget.
Base, pardon? Yeah. Yes, Meritt. You wanted to say something.
I think it will depend on what type of a role that you want him to do, and depend
You're very close to it. So what is the technique we use?
on
So typically, that's where in the second session, we are going to do job evaluation. Got it? So we establish the worth of the job. So most of the good organizations, when they pay salaries, guaranteed salaries, so in order to ensure that there is
ratio.
internal equity, they do job evaluation.
Job evaluation. Sorry, yeah.
To establish the worth of the job, we do the job evaluation, and then with the help of market data, we will establish, hey, how much do I want to pay? Got it? That's what we are going to base salary. Okay, it can be paid month on month like a salary, or when it is non-exempt workers, you pay for the number of hours you have worked. As you know, and like for example, in the case of workers, you establish how much you need to pay for an hour, and you pay him that. Now, the second component is called variable pay. As the word denotes, variable pay. What does it mean? It varies. That means it is not guaranteed. There is a condition attached. Okay. Now, what is the condition? There are various conditions. It could be the most common variable pay is depending on your compensation strategy. Say, for example, high performance compensation strategy. Then what will I focus on? That means variable pay. So I will have a lot of incentives, short-term incentives. So I will link it up with the performance. A classic case. A sales guy. How can he increase his variable pay? I'll say, hey, 100 units is a target. But if you increase it to 150, if you sell 150, you will get X amount. If you do 200, you'll get X amount. So what does it mean? So there is a variable pay linked with performance, which is predetermined. We'll talk more about it when we are doing the variable pay class. Okay. So it is a variable pay linked with performance. Now here I also want to talk about other ways of variable pay. What are some other ways of variable pay other than the performance which are common in today's times? A. Hardship. What is hardship? A very common example. In IT guy, what is it? In ITS company mostly, call center guys work at night. So there is certain hardship attached to it. So you give him what? Night shift allowance. But you may ask me saying, but why should you give night shift allowance? Why don't you actually add that to his base salary? What happens if I add it up to the base salary?
Your statutory things become higher because all statutory are calculated on base.
No, but then tomorrow, if I'm shifting him to a day shift, I'll have to give that also, right? So as
Not
long as he's
necessary, right? For example, if you're moving him from a day shift, yeah.
as long as he's working in the night shift, I'm attaching a night shift allowance. But the moment he shifted to a day shift, the night shift allowance is withdrawn. For example, I don't know, in a bank, you have this teller's allowance. Do you know what is a teller? Cashier? As long as this bank clerk is working in the cashier department, he gets a teller allowance. But then the moment he is not working there, very common, deputation allowance. Can you tell me some other hardship allowances? Names of some other hardships where you get allowance? Quick.
In the
I'm
healthcare in the hospital, like if you're a more experienced nurse and you're on like the emergency room unit versus a regular nurse, sometimes you get more because you have more of a workload.
absolutely, absolutely. Any others in your
Trip
organization? Just think
allowances,
of, yeah,
trip allowances, driver
uh,
trip allowances.
yeah, absolutely. Overtime allowance, then shift allowance, absolutely. Rig allowance. Then an employee is actually transferred to a place which is has hazards. It's a very a remote area, so you also have remote area allowance, or um, you know uh, high high altitude area. Then you have, because there is certain hardship. Wherever there is certain hardship, you need to give that hardship allowance, because the moment he shifted there, then that allowance is withdrawn. Like, for example, a very classic case. In your payroll department, there are two HR guys working. One is looking after the payroll only in the office, but the other guy, he has to go, travel, collect the cash, and then go and disperse it in an organization, and then drive down 50 miles. So, if I don't give any hardship allowance, do you think I'm actually being fair to that other person who is working, who is collecting cash, going and disbursing, and then coming back? So there is a hardship, right? So we need to give some kind of a hardship allowance. Okay, is that very clear? Hardship allowance. Next, there's a very interesting allowance called, what we call it as, market related. When do you give this allowance? There is something called market related incentive. Have you heard of this hot skill allowance? Anybody who's come across hot skill allowance? So suddenly, yeah, Smaran, you want to say something?
I mean, I've heard about it, to be honest, but then I'm not sure there's any. At least I have not come across any organization or any payslips that has shown it as a market allowance or market skill allowance. Right. So basically, what we do is we add it as a part of our base pay, or we then use it as putting up stock options and everything. Right. Understanding in terms of the criticality. So I'm aware of what it is, because then we put it, so we in our organization we put it as critical skill or hard to find skill, right? So then
There's a
obviously
difference between critical skill. Okay, good. So this is called market related incentive bonus, or hot skill. What does it mean? The small organizations. What happens? Well, say simple. In today's times, cloud computing, or there's something. There are many startups, many organizations who are coming up with this, and they need the skill. And suddenly, there's a huge demand for the skill. It could be a Java, it could be anything. Okay. Now, so what happens then if you are actually employing such skills? People will tend to it, right? Because you are getting higher salary outside. So in order to reduce that attrition, you say, hey, I become cognizant of the fact that this skill has become hot. There's a huge demand for this. So maybe for 1 year, maybe for 2 years, I start giving a incentive. It could be, it's called hot skill incentive or a market related incentive bonus. I don't add it in the guaranteed cash because after 1 year or 2 years, then the demand for that skill is not much. It is only short term. So there's a difference between this hot skill and critical skill. Okay. But then, um, I have been doing a lot of consulting in big organizations like Infosys, Tata. So how do they manage? They don't give hot skill because the other people will say, hey, but ours are very critical skills. Why is this person getting hot skill? Now, organizations which are very small, they don't have bench strength. So what happens? They're all the time keeping their employees busy with projects. So whenever such a situation happens, they are forced to give hot skill if they are having employees with such skills. Now, large organizations, what do? People on the bench, depending on the kind of skills, technical skills or whatever skills are required, they create a talent pipeline because employees who are on the bench, they do not get variable pay. Okay, so they use that to train them up, to invest in them and give them the current skills, or which are very very critical and also which are hot, so that there is never a point of time where they are short of skills. Smaran, are you with me now?
Uh, yeah, got it. So basically, you can what you're suggesting is something like a retention bonus or something on a short-term basis, where you know that at least for 3-4 years we need to hold them up, and then maybe the market will open up.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't call it as a retention bonus because we are linking it with that particular hot skill. And this is applicable to all the small and very medium-sized organizations where they don't have much of a bench strength. Because large organizations, they're always having bench strength and they try to use their time in terms of investing in them and ensuring that they upgrade their skills as per the requirement which is there, as per the business requirements. So there's never a point of time where they have to go and buy skills from the market. Okay, because this is only to reduce your wage cost. Okay, so we talked about hot skills, we talked about hardship, we talked about performance linked variable pay. Now the fourth is merit pay. Have you heard of merit pay? Yeah, that is also a part of a variable pay. One, you also get it as what? Whenever at the end of the year, annual increment, what do you get? A merit pay, an increase based on your performance. You also get merit pay. There are two kinds of things where for cross skills and also for up skills. Today, it is used as a retention strategy in a big way, where you are saying, hey, say, for example, there is a common student, BCom guy who has joined a bank. Now, I'll say in the next 5 years, they, they show him a career growth of, he can become a manager, provided he actually qualifies his what? CAIIB banking exam, which is part one and part two. And they also give him a roadmap. In 3 years, you do part one. In the next 2 years, you do part two. And every time you do, you get an increment as well. So what does it mean? Upskilling. There's a growth. So for your high performers, so you are also saying, hey, I'm giving you a merit pay for actually, improving your skills so that we can retain you and you are also motivated. A lot of organizations, like for example, the Citibank, every time they actually acquire certain competencies, certain certifications, they're always getting an increment. That's a merit pay. Why do they do that? Because they want to retain their top performance. And as because it's better to retain your top performance as compared to going and buying from the market at a higher cost. That is called upskilling. What is cross skilling? Anybody who can tell me cross skilling? Most of the organizations globally are doing cross skilling. What is cross skilling? You're actually giving a merit pay every time you are increasing, you are increasing your skills. Say, for example, in a manufacturing organization, say,
Basically,
you know,
training employees to perform the job outside their actual job
uh, I'll
is
give you an example. Say, Volkswagen. Okay. You are employing, there are two jobs, fitters and welders. You know? Typically, a welder is a job and also a fitter. Now, ample supply of fitters, the fitters come, okay, and then you tell him, hey, but if you also get, you know, certified in welder, you get an additional increment. Okay, so there's a process built around that. That means you have to go, there is skill based, what is it, center. You have to go there, then you will be tested, certified. The moment you get your certificate, you tell the HR department and you get an increment. Now, why do organizations actually promote this kind of a thing? Can anybody think of it from the compensation perspective? Now, suddenly, when people are, it takes care of your absenteeism. You can actually shift person, when, when there is you have welders who also are trained in as fitters. Then if a fitter is not there, then you can actually shift them there. Also, you don't have to employ more people for fitters and also welders. You can reduce the number of employees on your role and use them for different jobs.
It's like
Okay.
recycling the workforce.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And third, typically what happens suddenly, when the guy fitter comes at a very high salary in the market, you can actually give some amount of remuneration to these people, because it is, you are actually increasing his motivation by telling him, hey, you are becoming multi-skilled. I'm increasing your employability. Like, for example, most of the manufacturing organizations like GE, Volkswagen, they all actually do what? Cross skilling. So that you actually don't employ people for every job, but you actually shift them to a rotation, and it helps you in building up their skills. So that's how merit pay actually helps most of the organization. They are promoting. In fact, today, as of today, I think it's a lot of skill based. There are organizations, say for example, crane operator. Are you familiar with crane operators? You know how difficult it is to get a crane operator? Do you know that? So, what organizations are doing? They're actually creating skill-based training centers and taking the best and also giving away to others. Like, for example, let me tell you, in when I was the head of this Apollo Health Center, where we had a medical coding, as a vertical, and which was of a high profit margin. Now we had huge attrition. What did we do? We set up a medical coding school so that there was always a talent pipeline. Huh? And then we created a retention scheme for 2 years or 3 years, and then thereafter we would let go people. Otherwise, buy from the market, it would be 2 to 3 times higher than what we could afford to our budgets. So you need to really create your talent pipelines through multi-skilling, merit base, etc. Now there is another column.
ma'am. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Nowadays, our we have started in our organization. We have also started reskilling.
Pardon?
Um,
Yeah.
we have also started reskilling.
Reskilling. Yes.
Yeah, so that was we have started initially. The reason why, because in market we were facing difficulties in getting the new promising candidates. So that is the reason our company has strategized, and we reskilling basically a process of learning new skills. So right now, for example, lot of processes and projects are moving to cloud. So in
Right.
that particular case, when if we get the people outside, in the market, they are more expensive, and our budget does not allow us to do. And that is the reason why we got involved in a lot of training vendors, and we have started giving this cloud AI training to all our employees, which will not even saving the cost, but also helping us in career path, career planning, and uh,
Absolutely. I think a very
succession
good
planning
point.
as well.
Very good point, because it not only motivates people, it also helps you, as a good retention strategy, because when you are diversifying, when you are upgrading into different technologies, you will actually find people who can actually learn, have the learning curve and start reskilling, so that it's better to, have your own people reskilled and have them into new positions, as opposed to getting somebody from the market. Yeah. It's becoming very common, because a lot of technology changes because of those, and as organizations are evolving, they're also getting into a lot of reskilling, especially with the technical skills. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Now let's look at deferred pay. The word deferred pay, what does it mean? That means you are deferring the payment. What could be some good examples of deferred pay? Quick. Retention bonus. Do you get it immediately? If Niti joins a new organization, then they will tell her, hey, we are going to give you a retention bonus of 5 lakhs. Okay. But will they give it on the day she joins?
No, relocation bonuses.
Yeah. So they will decide on the number of years this critical resource has to stay, 5 years, 3 years, or whatever. And they would actually say, okay, at the end of the 1 year, at the end of 2 years, at the end of 3 years, they would actually apportion. And the biggest chunk you will get it when you have to actually leave the last mile, right? So in essentially, retention bonus is given to all the critical jobs. Some of the, it could be 1%, 2% of jobs in the organization, not necessarily top management jobs. So critical jobs are not just necessarily top management jobs. It could be also low level jobs as well, but it could be a very critical job. One is retention bonus. Then joining
Referral
bonus.
referral bonuses are there until
Yeah,
and unless the
join.
employee, when you refer somebody and the person does not complete the probation, you will not pay the referral bonus to the person who is referring to that other
Referral
than
bonuses are
employee.
not given immediately. Only there's
Yeah.
a policy which says after 3 months or maybe after 6 months, ensuring that the person performs well and also he does not get right. He is retained in the organization. Joining bonus. Say, for example, I'm going to give you a joining bonus if you join us. So I'll say, hey, it takes 60 days and 59 days, and I'm not joining. Will you still get a joining bonus? No. Only if you join, you get a joining bonus. Okay. So these are deferred pays. Now, even stock options are also deferred payments. Why? Why are they called deferred payments? Because you don't get immediately. They actually get, you know, only when you, as per the letter, they say if you stay for 3 years, if you stay for 5 years, we'll talk about more about the stock plans, then you are going to get the stocks. Okay. You can't sell them also within a particular time. So there is a time which is fixed in it. What is annuity plans? Anybody who understands annuity plans? This annuity plan is actually extended to middle and top management. It is typically a tax saving. Instead of the amount getting deducted as tax, the company, what does it do? It extends this annuity plan to all these people and says, hey, this amount, we will actually call it as an annuity plan, which gets invested in an LIC. And after a few years, you get the amount, of course, with some amount of tax deducted as well. But, it saves some amount. So it's called an annuity plan. Typically, it is a tax saving plan. Any questions thus far, guys? In direct compensation, thus far, we'll talk about each and every part of it as we, in every session we are going to do in detail. But here we are just giving you an overview. Just give me a thumbs up if all is good. Okay. Let's come to the indirect compensation, which is pretty much simple. When we talk about indirect compensation, it's all about non-monetary. It starts with what? Protection programs. I think all of you are very, very comfortable telling me about what kind of protection programs can we have? One is mandatory as per the statutory. Over and above the statutory requirement, or some of the organizations also extend certain protection programs. It could be medical insurance, life insurance, disability, pension, etc. In India, we have what? Protection programs. Quick. If I ask Smaran, he'll say, oh, ma'am is only asking me questions. Please. Niti or somebody else? Yes. In India, what do we have? Protection programs, which are statutory compliant. Provident fund, gratuity, right? As per the and for insurance, ESI, which is statutory compliance,
Yes,
right?
I see.
And in US, of course, you have this Davis Bacon for the construction projects. Then you have something called, for retirement, disability. Channel should be able to tell me what is as per the statutory requirement protection programs.
Yes, we have pensions. We have 401k. That's retirement programs. We have
Absolutely.
life insurance. We have casualty or crisis insurance if you have like cancer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
All that
Yeah.
good stuff.
In fact, in US, I think a lot of focus is given to the medical insurance and 401k programs because, health insurance is very, very important there, key, right? Yeah. Pay for time not worked. Typically in India, we have, I talked about maternity benefit, which is statutory. You have to give paid leave for a month and sick leave, etc. But over and above, organizations are also giving paternity leave. I think it's now universal, maybe 4 days, 5 days, emergency leaves, paid vacations, etc. Why do you think they are
Marriage
giving over
leaves.
and above? Yeah, Nitin was talking
Marriage
about some.
leaves.
Yeah, yes,
Marriage
Nitin.
leaves.
Yeah, okay. In fact, in Dubai, I think you get 45 days of maternity leave, right?
Yes. Maternity,
Yeah,
yes, 45
45
days.
days. Mm. And then in non-monetary, you also have services and purposes like recreation facilities, car, financial planning, low-cost meals, free meals, etc. Over and above all this, I think today's organizations after the COVID are emphasizing a lot on what? Wellness. And in wellness, they are not only emphasizing on physical wellness, but also on what? Mental wellness. In fact, to uh, uh, you know, in my organization, we used to have this counselors. We used to also give um, 2 free psychiatric consultations because mental illness, I think, is on the increase, and we have to recognize that. And most of the organizations are supporting the mental wellness, yoga, etc. Gym is becoming very common. Yeah. Anybody who wants to talk about more of non-monetary indirect compensation in terms of services and perks your
Like
organization in particular is giving? Yes,
we
Maran?
have we give rehab to people that have addiction issues.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And do organizations support in terms of giving some kind of help, etc.?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll pay
Okay.
for it.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Smaran? In your organization, what kind of um, perks, requisites, or what do you do in terms of health and wellness programs?
I mean, typically it's standard, right? It's not something that is currently that we have done something that is very different. But just out of
Okay.
curiosity, I wanted to understand in terms of services and prerequisite. Nowadays, a lot of things come as hybrid, right? People want to work hybrid and all. Isn't that a part of indirect compensation because you're still saving a lot and your travel things come out, right? So technically, shouldn't hybrid work culture also be a part of services and requisite and be brought under indirect compensation?
Absolutely, you're right. So uh, we were just discussing. Very good, you brought that up. We were talking about just the components of a compensation system, but today organizations are not just looking at direct and indirect compensation in terms of cash and non-monetary, but they're looking at beyond after the COVID. It was there even before COVID, the total reward concept, okay, which we will talk about. The five elements where you're talking about hybrid, flexibility, etc., work-life balance. Because of, if you see, the employees are also not just looking at a check. They want more in terms of, the culture of the organization, what kind of recognition programs, what kind of career growth programs. So all this is looked into. So when we talk about total rewards, then we'll talk about those five elements, and in those five elements, what are some of the constituents of those elements, and how do you balance them depending on the business focus. Okay, ultimately everything is business focus. So therefore, how do you align the entire thing? And the compensation system of direct and indirect, or the base salary and variable, are just one or two elements of the total reward concept. Okay, all right, guys. So what do? We'll just take a small break of 10 minutes, and then we come back to, okay, the total reward concept, and then the interesting concept of equity principle. Done, guys? Okay, so right now the time is 4:06. So we come back by what time? 4:15? Will that be okay with you all? Okay,
Yes.
4:15. Okay, now. All right. Okay, you can have a quick tea break and a bio break. Huh? Are we all there? Welcome back.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful. Everybody on time. Okay, okay. So anybody who can recap just in one or two sentences, what did we cover till now? We actually looked at what? We looked at external factors and which impact compensation, right? Thereafter, we looked at components of compensation, which are very important for us to know as a compensation person. So when we looked at direct and indirect pay, indirect, what did we look at? Base salary, variable pay, deferred pay. And then in indirect or non-monetary, what we call it as, we looked at protection programs, then we looked at uh, paid time, then we looked at perquisites and also all these services and recreation facilities, what the benefits, what we call actually, which organizations give in non-monetary form, right?
Well, we
Now,
also looked at
very interesting,
regulations too.
very, yeah, Chanel, yeah, you mentioned something,
We also looked at the different regulations that impact the different government regulations that impact the compensation
right?
factors.
So in the external factors, we said yes, the key factor is the statutory or the government regulations which impact compensation. Now, very interestingly, Swaran said yes, there are hybrid models. Today's organizations, what do they do? What is the trend today? Now, every organization exists because it has a what? It has to achieve certain results, right? Very, very interesting. So, a business exists to achieve certain results. In order to achieve these results, how will they achieve results? You need to have satisfied, engaged employees. Am I right? If you have satisfied, engaged employees, you have high performance and high results. Now, in order to attract, motivate, and retain such employees, today, organizations are coining, okay, that this is our employer value proposition, EVP. I'm sure most of you have heard about it. What is your employer value proposition? Okay, now we talk about a total reward strategy. When I say total reward strategy, it looks at the entire reward strategy beyond just money. We only looked at compensation, money, and non monetary. But when we are talking about total reward strategy, it's looking beyond money. Now, under this strategy, there are 5 elements as per World at Work. Okay. What are they? Compensation, which is both base salary and variable pay, benefits, all the benefits. Okay. Then work life. Then you are looking at performance and recognition. And then what are the development and career opportunities? So these are 5 elements which form a part of the total reward strategy. Now, depending on the business focus and in the kind of market environment and the kind of people they need to attract, motivate, and retain, they will then what? Define and derive a very well communicated total reward strategy, which becomes your employee value proposition. You got that? Huh? Okay. So, under these, what are the kind of every element? So, we talked about compensation, benefits, work life balance, performance and recognition, development, career. These are 5 elements. Now, under these, what are the things? So, as I said, if you have these 5 elements in a way which actually then woven together, you design a strategy to attract, motivate, and retain. Okay. Now, typically under this, when we talk about compensation as an element of the total reward strategy, essentially it talks about what? It talks about base salaries and variable pay. Okay. In fact, Merit has given you a list of all the elements, everything in detail about total reward strategy. So I'm only giving you an overview so that you can go back and read about it. So depending again on your depending on whether you're a startup, whether you're a mature organization, are you a manufacturing organization, are you a high performance, or depending on the culture. So you can have your variable pay in a different way, right? And there is a list of variable pays here. What kind of variable pay will you have? Is it commission, team based, individual, bonus program, incentives? If you are, it is a high retention strategy, then you will have long term incentives, right? And if you want to have just high performance culture, then you may have just short term incentives depending on your industry. Okay. Now, likewise, even in benefits, you can have a lot of benefits under the health and welfare, pay for time not worked, retirement, both in terms of statutory and over and above the what is required. Okay. Then work-life balance. Like for example, Google has a hybrid model. So depending, like not all organizations can afford to have only remote working or only you have to go to the, depending on the nature of your organization, you can have the kind of work-life balance. Because today, like hybrid work, so it's a part of your total reward strategy. Say, hey, I want my people to come only 2 days and 3 days you work from home. So they want to have that kind of a work-life balance. Or it can have skill-based bonuses under the variable pay, saying that, hey, I want to increase my employees' skills. So I will give a skill-based bonus. When you do a skill-based bonus, what happens? You are actually motivating your employees to learn more skills, learn more, upgrade yourself. Okay. Ultimately, what is that? You want them to see the value. Is a perceived value. Okay. Now, for example, under performance and recognition, to bring about more transparency, right? So, what are the various kind of performance and recognition rewards you have? Then, under career opportunities and development, are you having learning opportunities in terms of building up skills, sending them for MBA programs, sending them for technical programs, advancement opportunities, leadership, then coaching, mentoring, etc. Our organizations in the current organizations, you talk about any organization, they're talking about coaching, they're talking about mentoring, they're investing in people, in learning opportunities. So, what I want you all to do now, you have this, your total rewards inventory. Vilma, how many are there? The group of
There
Vilma,
are
can we make
seven.
two groups?
There are seven.
Seven.
Two groups.
So would you
Two
like to
groups.
make two groups?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I want you to look at this rewards inventory and you take one or two organizations. Don't mix up the organization. List out in this organization to create a um, the employer value proposition. What are the kind of components? What are the kind of things they are giving under every element? Okay. And you have a list here so that you don't have to remember. You can just pick which is that you have under compensation, under benefits. So I want to take one organization, any, if you have a group of 3 people, pick out anybody's organization and write down what are those elements today, the focus on, and why are you focusing on this? Is it aligning with your business focus? Because ultimately you exist only because the business is there. Okay. So if you have these kind of elements, how are you aligning with the business focus? What are your recommendations or what are your suggestions? Pardon?
15 minutes.
15 minutes is fine, right? Yeah. Have you understood? Choose one organization from your group. List out the kind of things you all do under all the elements and see whether it's working for you all, whether you are able to attract people, whether you are able to retain people. If you have huge attrition, but you are doing all those things, is it working? That means it's not really working. So ultimately, why do you create a total reward strategy which is very, very clear and well communicated? You're creating an employee value proposition in order to attract, retain, and motivate, and also keep them engaged. Okay. So take one organization among the group, see what are you doing, and also see how, just see some kind of a, data in terms of attrition. Are you having actually some positions which are not getting filled in for the longest time? Then just think about it. Why? Okay. Have you
Got
understood
it.
what you're supposed? Huh? Got it?
Yes. Got it.
See, for example, you are saying you are a great person in compensation you are paying. But then you have some critical positions which are vacant for the last 3 months, 6 months. You're not able to attract people. Why? Why are they not coming? Right? You have huge attrition, but you're saying I have a hybrid model. I'm giving the best of benefits. I'm doing reward recognition, etc. Then why? Okay. All right, guys.
Niti, you can share the screen.
Now my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so ma'am, we have taken three companies. So the first one is mine, and then we have taken for Heather's, and then um, we have
Channel.
we have taken for Shannon as well. So I'll take out my company first. So since we are the manufacturing and IT together, so we follow a lot of
Manufacturing and IT. Okay.
yeah. So we actually provide the salary pay. Then we have this skill based pay, which is basically which I was talking about reskilling, which we normally do for our employees. And if they clear the certifications or if they clear any kind of training, then we pay around 10,000 rupees uh, based on the skills which company is actually asked them
So
to
what I
do for.
understand is when you say skill-based pay, is that every time, so you are promoting employees to learn new skills and then motivating and incentivizing them by also giving maybe an extra increment or some certain kind of an allowance, right?
Yeah, but I mean, when as an organization we request them to do any kind of reskilling themselves, as per based on the need of the organization. So what we do is you clear the certification company. There are two ways. Either because we have Udemy also, right? So either they can complete the Udemy course and then they can go for um, certification which Udemy is normally giving it, or if they are going from outside and get the certification done. So we normally give them either the certification cost or the training cost to
Yeah.
them. So that is why I mentioned two. I mean,
So that's
uh,
a process. Okay.
yeah, and then we have variable
Pay,
payment which we pay
which
them
is
quarterly
okay.
based on the performance. So we have this quarterly review system where we quarterly review the performance and then we pay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then we have this Diwali bonus which we pay in the month of October to all the employees for Diwali. And again, this is also in our salary structure itself.
Hmm.
So around as per the Maharashtra labor law, we normally provide them. I mean, annually we have to pay 16,800 rupees. So which we compute and give it to the employees in the month of October at the time of Diwali.
Right.
So then we have this benefits. We have this medical plan where we covered GMC, GPA together. So
Mm-hmm.
group medical insurance and the group personal accident. We also have term plan insurance also for the employees. Apart from that, we have this annual health checkup, which in a year we provide twice to our employees. And then we have this CAP facility where the
So
people.
annual health checkups are for all the employees of the organization.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Then we have this cab facilities, like our factory is in Ranjangaon and our city office is in Kharadi. So the people who we normally provide bus service for our employees to travel to our factory, and for cab facility for our city office team members.
Okay.
So that is there, and then we have this internet quarterly reimbursement which we give them, which is 500 a month. So quarterly we pay around 1500 rupees,
Okay.
and this is also for all the employees. Now,
All
if I
right.
come to the work life balance, then we have this hybrid work culture, wherein we have this 10 days work from home and 12 days work from office policy.
Excellent. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Then we have this paid off vacation. This is basically based on the performance of the employee. Not everybody is eligible, but the people who are performing and they wanted to, avail. So instead, so there are two options. Either you can go for cash, which is, some shares, some of the profit sharing for that particular project, or they can go for a paid off vacation. So normally company arranges all the vacations, like hotel and flights and everything, and that is
Excellent.
something we
So
do.
these are for those employees who have performed well, top performers. So you have a predetermined kind of targets or whatever who are actually considered top performers, right? Okay.
Yes, yes. Then we have this prolonged medical leaves, like for example, if any of the employees are, suffering from prolonged diseases like burns, cancer, or any other disease. So for them, they have this prolonged medical leaves they can avail, and but it will be we don't pay anything to them. It is basically we approve their leaves,
The
and
loss of
we
pay, is it? Not paid leave.
it
Loss
is
of
not
pay.
a paid leave. It is not a paid leave, but it is not like for example, if any employee wanted to take like 25 days of leave, right? So this prolonged leave does not have any payment benefit, but apart from that, they can avail our medical plan. If there is any kind of regular health checkups they wanted to do, they can go to our GMC. They can avail the GMC policy. So rest all benefits are obviously there, but the payment like the salary pay and the variable pay won't be there.
Okay.
Then we have this maternity leave, which is as per the labor law 180 days we have to pay the salary to the would-be mother. And then we have paternity leaves, which is 5 days. We give to the new fathers for 5 days where they can spend time with their newborns. So this is our work life, what we see. And then in performance and recognition, we have this rewards and recognition, which happens in every 6 months to our company. Then and apart from that, we have spot awards, and then we have long service award like 5, 10, 15 years who have served, and then we give some kind of rewards plus the gold coin. And then we have this development and career opportunity where we give this grow training program. Is basically we have certain sets of training which they have to complete, and on the basis of that we give them some kind of rewards, not the monetary rewards, but some kind of certificates or trophies or awards or some special projects. We enroll them to some special projects. Then we have this reskilling training programs. So it can be either ways. Either the organization do it, or we ask the employees you can go and do it from outside, and we will either reimburse you your training cost or the certification cost, whichever is less.
Excellent. I think the focus clearly, what I can see is there's a lot of, I mean, L&D, development and career opportunities for your employees. So tell me just one question I want to ask you, but I think you've already told me your attrition rate is really very marginal now, right? Retention has gone up a lot. So
Yes,
it also
yes,
shows me clearly that there is an alignment between your total reward strategy and ability to retain people, engage people, and I'm assuming that even your productivity indexes are high in the sense your
yes,
performance is also high because looking at all this, elements and the kind of focus you have given, I think the organization definitely is doing very well. Hmm? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Niti. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. The other person, you are talking for everybody or the yeah,
No, I think Heather will take it for his company.
yeah, lovely. Yes, Heather. Is he there? Am I audible? Is Heather coming?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, even I think even Channel can start. Yeah, Channel.
Okay, guys. I am so jealous of the first girl because her company is like a rock star. However, I work at Feme Arrow. The compensation portion of the table is we offer payments for conversions when somebody goes from temporary to a full-time employee. And then we also have a stipend increase for
Mhm.
graduates of they graduate from aircraft mechanics school. Then benefits. Um, I think that maybe I didn't understand the instructions correctly. I kind of talked about the perks, the extra things after compliance, because we have a medical plan. Um, but it's I would say on the basic side, we just offer
Okay.
copay reimbursement. So they get a check
Mhm.
in the mail when they pay for benefits. Like they go to their doctor and they pay the copay, like it was $15, $30, and then they can get reimbursed for that. So essentially, there's no copay that they have to pay when they go to the doctor. Um, we don't really
Okay.
have a work life balance. Our work life balance is I work on the weekends. I work 7 days a week. Um, but I'm
Oh.
salary.
So
So
where is the balance? Hmm.
this is my balance. I'm talking to you guys. This is my balance. That's it. Um,
Yeah.
but we
Uh,
operate 24 hours because airplanes they have to be worked on, all day because airplanes, they're really important. Um,
Absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
we have three different shifts, first, second, and third. But the performance and recognition, we do have like a personalized performance evaluation. And I say that nicely. She put it so nicely because really it's when they come into my office and I've been here for a year, I need a raise. That's what that kind of looks like.
So just to
So
drive that element of performance and recognition, typically when it forms as a total reward strategy, so organizations actually consider having a very transparent, effective way of evaluating performances so that there is equity, fairness in the way you are evaluated, and also increases merit base and all that is given very transparently. People see that there is no bias, no subjectivity, there's more objectivity, and you're appreciating, recognizing for all the good work. And, so it motivates people when you see that, hey, I am definitely being given my due with the kind of effort I'm putting in. Got it?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not like
Yeah.
that though. We need to be
Uh,
like that.
Yeah. So then the person doesn't mind working like you 24/7, all 7 days, right? Because you get into the flow, because you're motivated so much. So you don't feel it as a stress factor. All right. Yeah. So much for that. So the development and career opportunities are there? Do they invest in
No,
learning? Do they invest? So they would have actually paid you for this certification as well, right?
no, I pay for this myself.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Can we have the other group?
You have to remove your
Smaran Bros
screen.
group. Huh? Pardon?
Nitin has to share. Nitin has to share. He has the
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing.
I think the group needs a good applause, a round of applause. Good work done.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
Milan, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, sure.
Who's
Go
the
ahead.
MC? Who's the MC here?
Make your screen bigger. At the bottom, at the bar, you'll.
Yeah, this 100% where it's written, you can actually just take it to the other side.
Correct.
Great.
Okay, perfect. Hmm.
It's so big that it's going out.
Uh, use that.
Yeah.
It's
Use
okay.
that
But
minus
that's good enough. Yeah, that's good enough.
minus sign.
1,
Use
2,
the
3,
minus
4.
sign.
I can only see 4 elements. Where's the other one?
It's it.
Yeah. Now I can see all the 5. Yes, guys. We have still another module
Milan.
left. Quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of the compensation element, we have the basic salary, which is a fixed salary that we provide to the employees, and then we have hardship allowance, which is given
So this
to
is
employees.
which organization? Or yeah, what does it do?
So we are a conglomerate in Qatar. We have around 7+ industries. We serve 7+ industries across 18 countries. We have around 65,000 employees. The company is PIH.
Okay. Oh, it's a conglomerate. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a base salary. We give base salaries for employees, and then we have hardship allowance. So this is something that is given to employees who have been working in hardship locations. For example, like we have the NEOM project in Saudi, which does not have people do not have access to clean water. They do not have access to Wi-Fi and so on. So these are in
Remote
remote locations.
locations, hazard locations, right?
Yeah, so we call that hardship allowance, and then we also have something special allowance when we send people on international assignments
Right.
to work on some of these projects. We instead of revising their base salaries, we just add a supplementary sort of an allowance that we give it to these people for the duration of the project. So we call that special allowance.
Yeah. And this allowance is given provided they finish the project within the timelines as per the specifications of quality as well, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
before I go to the incentives, I'll also touch upon the housing allowance. So this is basically given as a 30% of the total salary that the person receives. We give this as housing allowance, and then also we provide transportation allowance.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of the incentives, we have profit sharing for C-level, so that we have like grade in our company we have grade 20, we have grade 3 to grade 24. So anybody who is grade 20 and above are entitled for profit sharing. So if they have their
Right.
own BUs, they are entitled for profit sharing. And the rest of the staff, they have performance-based incentives based on their performance for the previous year. Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So the shift allowance and trip allowance, I think these are the ones that are highlighted in yellow are not in my company, but I think it's in Nitin's and
Other
Smaran's
companies they are
company.
giving.
Yeah,
Okay.
other company.
Done. Because your process, your workflow, maybe it will not really entail shift allowances,
Require.
right? So it
Yes.
depends on the kind of industry, depends on the kind of processes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good to go. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of
Benefits.
benefits, we have private medical insurance. Then we have maternity leave. We have schooling allowance for C-level executives for 2 kids. And we also have workman's compensation.
Okay. Okay.
And we also
Fine.
have air tickets for expats. Yeah. Annual air tickets for expats. In terms of work-life balance, we do have remote work, but it is very not fully much implemented, because it's given on a case by case basis, especially for IT and HRIS and that sort of team. But the rest of the
Okay.
team, we are required to come to office, and we also have flexible hours. So that is something that is given, but that also depends on the manager and the team. So they need to, even though it is rolled out firm wide, still it is at the discretion of the manager to whether to give flexible hours or not. So this is something that's been the organization. So in terms of learning and development, we do have a platform similar to Udemy or LinkedIn Learning. It's called Cornerstone. So this has a lot of courses. These are uh, pre-vetted courses by industry experts on various subjects. So we do have access for the staff. Staff have been given access to these applications, and they can access whatever the courses that they need in order to upskill and so on. So this is something that is given, and we also have succession planning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so succession planning is also part of the learning and development criteria. And in terms of performance and recognition, we have quarterly star awards. So this is it's based on there are multiple criterias, but it's the manager who nominates, but it's sort of a voting system where the peers have to vote for this individual that is nominated by the manager. So this is a system that we have. It's a monetary benefit that the employee gets, along with some certifications and even the email signature during that. Throughout the next quarter, he will have that email signature saying that he's a star of the quarter and so on, something like that. So that's something that we provide.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I just want to have a last word on this for both the groups. When we talked about the various things one does under the total reward strategy, under the 5 elements, say, for example, you are saying succession planning. So that means, obviously, when you say you have succession planning, that means there is a process. You are taking care of identifying the successors, then identifying what are the kind of competencies for the next level. So there's a process in place, right? Huh? So what happens? It's just not naming or just so when you have all these things in place, then this becomes a real uh, employee value proposition for your organization to attract people and also to retain people, and also to motivate them. For example, if you are saying under performance and recognition, you have an excellent performance management system where it is fair. You have a proper system where you are evaluated fairly. So what happens? People feel that there is no subjectivity. Your performance is evaluated objectively. So that itself creates, um, you know, what I must say, a high engagement culture. So when we are talking about total reward strategy elements, not just elements per se, and this is what we are, writing, but you are also having well, uh, processes well researched and which are working for you, and you are taking feedback and you are making course corrections, so that ultimately, what is it? You want to have a, a highly engaged and satisfied employees. Now, how can you check that whether this is working for you if your attrition is very high? If your performance indexes are not up to the mark with the benchmarks, right? If your retention, you're not, but if your retention is very high, your performance indexes are very high, you don't have positions which cannot be closed for a long time, you are able to close all your critical positions within a certain time, that means this is working for you. But the outcomes are not reflecting. Yeah? These are the indexes which you can check whether your total reward strategy is working for you or not, or they are just there for the namesake. Got it? Are you in sync with what I
Yes.
have told you? Yeah? Just give me a thumbs up if you have understood the concept. Am I there? Am I not there? Guys? Yeah,
Yes.
Milan says he's there. Okay, great. All right. Somebody can stop sharing, then I will just share. We have to cover one very important concept before we close. Okay. Let me also applaud the second group for the good work done. Okay. Good work done and mm, compensation. Okay. 1 second. Huh? Yeah. Guys, this PPT will be sent to you. You can read it. It's got everything. So I'm only giving you an overview of whatever it is. Okay. The third and the most important concept we are going to learn is, you know,
Hello. Not able to hear. Voice is cracking maybe.
Yeah, from her end, I think it got disconnected probably.
opened out. Let me
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Something happened. Yeah. I hope. Can you see? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. Employees are motivated because only if you are motivated, then you're going to perform. It's going to translate into a behavior which is highly engaged. Engagement is a behavior, right? I'm motivated only when I see that whatever effort I put, the inputs is equal to the rewards I get. Say, for example, Niti works very hard. Okay, she has high qualifications, she has a lot of certifications, but she sees that the kind of rewards salary she gets is not equal to the effort. Then what will happen to Niti? What will she do? Tell me, what will you do, Niti?
Look for a
I'll
new
feel
job.
demotivated. Yeah, I'll look for a new job.
Vilma, am I audible? Am I there on this or is it?
Yes, you are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Audible.
So what will you do when you put in a lot of effort? Tell me anybody. But you are putting your effort. You come in the morning, you finish all your work, you take extra work, and you have the right qualification. But what you see is that the reward you get, you feel that it is not equal to the effort you put. What will you do then? How will you feel first of all?
Stressed out.
Anybody? How
Not
will you
good
feel?
enough.
You will feel demotivated,
Bad.
right? When slowly you will get disengaged, then you'll start looking for another job. Your productivity will fall down. Don't you think so? So, Adam's
Absolute.
equity theory says
True,
that
true.
the employee is motivated only when he sees that the input is equal to output. Okay. Now, what is input? What is input? Everything. The time, the effort, your abilities, your education, your qualification, experience, everything is input. And what is output? Tell me. Your salary, your bonuses, your benefits, your perks,
Recognitions.
everything, your titles. So when you see this is equal, then you'll feel motivated, engaged, etc. But tell me, how will you know that this input is equal to output? Tell me, typically. How will you know that this input is equal to output? Anybody? Please open
Perfor-
discussion. How will you? Huh?
performance. Performance evaluations. Um.
Right. When there's a performance evaluation, and when you get the increment, you see that you got less increment as in compared to another person who does much less work and got more increment. So what did you do? You're comparing. Only then you will know. So you will compare. When your input is equal to output, you are highly motivated, engaged. But how will you know it is equal to? You will compare. You will compare it with people within the organization. You will compare it with market. Say if I'm a compensation manager, uh, channel, and then she will compare it with a similar peer industry in the market, and she says, hey, that person is getting higher than me. What will happen? So she knows that her input is more and her output is less. That means she's getting lesser salary. So this is called equity theory. That means equity means fairness. So he talks about this equity, and my reward versus my contribution, if it is equal to, when I'm comparing with others, then I find it is equal, then it is equitable, fair. But when there is my reward versus effort is lesser than the other person, then there is inequity. So when there is inequity, or when I'm not being paid fairly, what do I do? Either I ask for a raise, or I will reduce my work, or I will look for some other better job, I will quit. Right? These are the typical things you do. But sometimes even the other thing can happen. That means my reward is more as in compared to the others. Then I start actually doing a little more hard work, or I will try the other person. Hey, why do you want to do this more? You will get what you have to get. Don't do, because he is wanting to justify it. So in an organization, for example, where there are 500 people, and 400 people feel that there is no fairness in the way people are paying, organizations paying, there is no equity, then what happens? What is the impact? First impact, when you feel
Mm.
demotivated. What is the first impact? When 90% of the people are feeling that there is no fairness in the way compensation is being paid, what is the first impact?
Performance drops.
Performance drops. Absolutely right. I will do what? Demotivated. So performance. When the performance drops, what happens? Productivity loss. So
Loss.
profits. So isn't it? So therefore, if you now know, organizations always try to do with these compensation surveys or whatever, ensuring that are people actually happy with their compensation? And some of the indicators are, am I able to attract people? Am I able to retain people? Because one of the indicators is, if your people are not being retained, like Niti says, 87, 88%, that's a very good indicator that people are very happy with what they're getting paid, either with the salaries or with the other benefits, etc. Right? It need not be always a paycheck, but because they are balancing it with the other elements of the reward strategy. So when this happens, there are three kinds of equity. What are they? Internal equity, external equity, and individual equity. We will talk about procedural fairness later in the next session. But let me talk about internal equity. When people are comparing, you know, within the organization, it's called internal equity. Now, when does such inequity appear in organizations? When there is no proper job evaluation, when people are just paid by saying, okay, fine, I'm going to pay Niti X amount, and some again I'll pay somebody else another amount. So typically you'll see in a family owned organization or in a startup where you don't have defined salary structures, they start paying any amount, and then after 3 or 4 or 5 years, when the organization gets larger, they see huge pay compressions. What does it mean? People who are coming, you know, they get higher salary as in compared to people who are staying, the long timers. So that's called pay
Right.
compression. Does it happen in your organizations? Because you are not doing any market corrections. So people who are doing the same job get lesser salaries, but people who are being recruited currently, they get higher jobs. Pay compression is a huge issue in some organizations where there is no salary structures. Okay. Second, what is external equity? That means when I'm comparing my salary with the market. When what is market? That means peer organizations. So when I compare and they say, hey, much lesser. So therefore, if you are all the time paying much lesser than the market, then what will happen? Obviously, people, you will lose people. Will you not lose people? Because people say, hey, we are getting much lesser salary. We better go to people. So you need to look at a trade-off. For example, Infosys, for their first level people, the entry level people, it offers salary which is called 65th percentile, means there are 35 companies or 35% companies which are paying higher. They kind of pay a little above the average. So maybe you will say, hey, but how will campus people won't join? But what do they offer? They say, no, in the element of total reward strategy, we offer you a lot of learning and development. We'll offer you new projects. So the guy says, hey, I'm at an entry level. I don't want to go for a big salary packet. I want an organization which invests in me. I want to actually hone my skills. I want to become what? Learned. Once I have got that, then I can jump. So typically, I've spoken to a lot of people in the Infosys when I was doing training. Do you know what they do? They join for 2, 3 years at a much lesser salary, which is 65th percentile, and then jump at 2 or 3 times the salary to another organization. Have you seen happening in reality on the ground?
Yes.
Huh? Yeah?
Yes.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you may say, hey, am I an organization just trying to train people and then I'm losing out people? No, then you need to have a talent pipeline, right? Saying that I'm having a continuous talent pipeline. So I will keep 5 to 10% of those top performers. I will incentivize them and then let the others go if they want to go. Okay, we'll talk about some of those strategies at a later point of time. So is it very, very clear in terms of what when we are talking about internal equity and external equity? So I want you to understand these two terms. Internal equity is what am I paying a particular job in relation to the other jobs. And when I do that, how do I establish internal equity? By doing job evaluation. That means I evaluate a job, establish the worth of the job. It could be through grading. It could be the point value. Say, for example, I'll say X job is 400 points. Y job is 350 points. Then which job should I pay higher? Quick. Which job should I
350.
pay the job which has higher points? So once I establish that, I can easily then say, hey, this job is higher because the effort, the complexity, the responsibility, everything is higher. So I have to pay this job higher. And so there is rationality, there is fairness, there is equity. Very clear?
Yes.
And external equity is what? When I'm comparing jobs with the market.
Market.
Now, like a startup, Smaran said, we are a startup. The focus when you're hiring in a startup, what happens typically? Typically, what happens in a startup? I'm actually wanting to grow. So, which function of HR becomes very, very active?
PM,
Smaran?
talent
Huh?
acquisition,
TA.
talent
TA.
acquisition.
Talent
TNA.
acquisition. So, talent acquisition. That means I'm hiring. I'm on a hiring spree, right? So, therefore, I have to focus more on what? External equity. That means market pricing. Am I paying in comparison to market? Because otherwise, I'll not be able to attract people. But in an organization where it is matured, it's an R&D, you want, for longer time, they focus more on internal equity in relation to the other job. So have you seen some organization will say market pricing. We only go by market pricing, because we are a startup, we are an organization of such nature. Some organizations which are long, which have R&D, etc., fairly well established, they will look at internal equity. Why? Because they want people to be retained. So unless there is a fairness in the way you are paying various jobs in the organization, people will say, hey, there is no objectivity in the way we pay. I'm doing more work, but I'm getting less salary. That person is doing less work, but he's getting higher salary. So obviously, you will have attrition problem. Okay. Having said that, in the next session, I will request all of you to just do a little reading because it's highly technical, though I'll make it very simple. And it's a very core session, job evaluation. And we are going to actually do certain statistical techniques like, correlation, regression models, etc. Okay, to establish the worth of the jobs. And it will be a very hands-on, interesting, less theory. So theory part, I want you all to read it because I will focus more on the technical part of it. All right, guys. Any questions?
Okay,
So
ma'am.
with this we come to the end of the session. Any questions on today's session?
So I have a question.
Sure.
How do you know, in regards to the equity theory, how do you know if you're not equitable internally?
How do we know? So absolutely. So um, that's the main crux what we're going to deal with in the second session. Okay. So when when people say, for example, I have a senior manager HR. Okay. And I find that I'm doing a lot of work, my effort is going, and there is another VPHR who is doing much less work and getting more pay. Okay, so this person says, hey, I'm doing so much of work and I'm being paid less salary, and this person who's at a higher, I'm sorry, Rose Channel. This is an excellent question. When we do session 2, where we are going to talk about the job evaluation technique, we'll be establishing that how do organizations know that they are not equitable. Okay?
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah, please.
Okay. For the cross scaling, how do you do that without the employee getting burnt out? Like, I was thinking maybe you could intertwine like the next job up or the job that relates to the job and put it in the job description to where it can be like a work in progress from the beginning. Or do you do job scaling like after the employee's been with the company for some time to see, yeah, he can do the job that he's been giving and he has the skills to do more? Like, how does that work out like that?
Okay, this is interesting. Can we just put that on the WhatsApp so that the first thing in the second session, I'm going to give you an example and then clearly explain this to you. Can you just put that in the WhatsApp for me? Hmm?
Yeah, I sure can.
Yeah, yeah. So that there is more clarity for you and also for the team, right?
Got it.
Okay. Okay. All right, guys. So thank you so much. And it was I think a very interactive, participative session. Thank you, one and all. And please keep this enthusiasm till the session 4. Okay. All right. Bye bye. Take care. Bye.